he went from bad student to best-selling author. He went from like lazy ass, bad employee to the cover of Globe and Mail, founder of CEO True Local, okay? He then, like, was reading his story, like, went from like holes in shoes, not easy living, right? To, at the age of 30, had his company acquired for 16.7 million. Started from the bottom, now we're here. That's my Canadianism thrown in there too. And now Marc continues to evolve in this world. And today, he is one of the leading voices in consumer AI. And this is gonna be really appropriate because do we not embrace the latest and greatest in tech? Is that not one of our offered values, right? So this next talk here, Marc is gonna focus on bridging the gap between realtors and consumer AI. I thought I had a great idea. There's ChatGPT, and I was gonna launch, J-Dog here was gonna launch ChatJPT. But Marc was like, buddy, get the hell off the stage, let me do my thing. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marc Lafleur!
Like we always do with this time.
What's up, man?
It's the best. Have a great one.
Thank you. What is up, everybody? Okay, listen, man, you guys, honestly, you're wild. You're wild. I saw some of you out last night. Like, I have never been to a real estate conference before. This is my first time, and you guys bring the noise and the energy. And real, like, oh my God. Like, what a business. What a culture. And I gotta call this out, okay? You know, I really appreciate the fact that you guys have 2 keynotes and you really had to focus on diversity. I think that's really important. I think we need more of that. It's really good to see that you guys are representing all hairstyles with your keynotes. All right, so listen, I'm a talker. I'm gonna dive right in. This is the 8 a.m. crew, okay? So you guys showed up early after last night. You guys wanna get shit done. I wanna teach you something. That's my goal here today. I wanna give you guys some actionable insights that you can use to make yourself better. But before that, I do have a confession. I am probably the only person in the room who has never sold a piece of real estate. So as Jesse was saying, this isn't my space. I'm a founder at heart. So I think what's important is that I introduce myself to you guys. I've met some amazing people so far, but I want to give you guys a formal introduction. So to start off, we got to go way back. Let's go back to my childhood. Hello. All right, so this is the real Marc Lafleur. All right, and despite the nice introductions, this is where my life started. And I think a lot of you guys can put 2 and 2 together and make an assumption that my high school career was pretty rough. This was me going into grade 8. I was the single biggest loser in my high school. There is no, don't try to talk me out of it, straight facts. So for me, it was tough. You know, I had this like crazy mix of insecurity mixed with attention seeking. A lot of us go through this in high school. So bad student, you know, had issues with the other kids, had issues with my teachers, took that into university, and just really kind of was like a C's get degrees kind of guy. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna make the assumption, I bet you that being a bad student, I'm also gonna be a bad employee, which was true. So I decided, you know what, screw all that, I don't want a boss, I'm gonna go into business. Longer story, but I heard that Snapchat got offered $3 billion by Facebook, and I was like, yo, what am I doing in school right now? This makes no sense. So I decided to go down the founder route, and I had this idea, right? For those of you that don't know, I know actually there's a couple customers here from True Local, but True Local, we did online locally raised meat products, all right? So you go online, you buy your meat, you get it delivered, pretty straightforward. But I had this image in my head where I was like, I'm gonna be the guy. I'm gonna be the guy that shows up and knows all the fit people and all the cool people. I'm the founder, I'm gonna drop the boxes off and they're all gonna love me and it's gonna be this great thing. I'm gonna call the shots, I'm gonna host the meetings, I'm gonna do all that. And I really I like to reminisce. So I look back and I have a photo that really just sums up like that entrepreneurial journey, like what it really means to be. And that would be this. This is entrepreneurship at its finest. For the first 4 years, all that happened was me getting punched in the face each and every single day, nonstop. So if you ever wanna know what it's like to start a company, this is it. This is my now wife, Irma. We just celebrated our 12-year anniversary, actually. So this was, thank you. So this is us in the trenches, and what you realize is that really being a founder has nothing to do with being a CEO or being a sales rep or being a president. It's actually just being a professional problem solver. So believe it or not, this was the first 4 years, but after 4 years, things kind of started to rock and roll, and we actually ended up having a pretty good story. So ended up making it on the cover of the Globe and Mail. Every year they rank Canada's top 400 growing companies. We were number 14. We were doing $20 million at our peak. We were spending, we were overseeing $200,000 a month in paid ads just on Facebook, $50,000 a month in Google. We were onboarding 80 to 100 influencers a month. That's a crazy amount of people to be dealing with and trying to make something work with. So it really started working. We had 60 employees, and it all culminated with a $16.7 million acquisition, which I always like to just highlight, not to brag, but just to say that from someone who's a bad student, not too bad of an ending. So don't count kids out. You never know what's going to happen. So after all this, anybody who knows me, I'm like a very go, go, go type A guy. I like the money. I want to win. I want to get after it. That whole hustle culture thing, it worked really well for me. But after the company sold, I spent 5 years of my life just going down this crazy hole of, okay, crazy type A, hardcore, and I wanted to calm myself down a bit. I wanted to kind of figure out what is life really about? Is there more to it than just building businesses and trying to win and do all this type of stuff? So I really wanted to find something that was going to help me just zen and just really find more of the meaning in life. So of course I settled on driving race cars. So I decided to start driving race cars. I did 18 races in an amateur series, lost the first 8, won the last 8, and that opened up the door to do a couple pro races. I did 4 professional races last year in this car, the Mercedes AMG GT4, and that opened up a couple cool doors to meet some cool people. So, I had this phase of my life. It was 2 years of in between when the company sold and now, essentially, or I guess a year ago. I did the racing thing, got that out of my system, and I decided, I want to start another company. What do I want to do next? Well, I got spit out at a very interesting time. I got spit out in November of 2022. And for those of you that don't know the significance, it was when the single biggest technological revolution of our generation happened. November 2022 is when ChatGPT came out. Didn't know much of what I was dealing with, but on day one, I was playing with ChatGPT, and on day one, I knew this is what I wanted to start going all in on. So fast forward, I decided that my new business was going to be in the AI space, specifically prompt engineering. So my firm, DB8 Labs, we do prompt engineering. Essentially, we build AI products for a variety of different clients, everything from financial services to education. And we actually ended up stumbling on real estate. And it's crazy because I have no real estate background. I've got a lot of friends in real estate. A really dear friend of mine, Amy Youngren, actually has just been a mentor my entire life. And it was great to kind of start seeing an overlap. So what ended up happening is this is the place I wanted to start spending my time. And in March of 2023, the API came out. Now, you don't even know what that means. All you need to know is that you can now start building stuff with ChatGPT. You can start building stuff with the model that's powering ChatGPT. So we started doing that. And it became very clear to me that real estate was one of the industries that was going to benefit the most from AI. Now, I will tell you why, and this is the whole purpose of the talk. The 2 main things in this talk are, number 1, for real estate agents, AI is the great equalizer, okay? So I want you to take that in because historically, we've fallen behind. So the reason you should pay attention during this talk is because after this talk, you will now be in a position where you're on the same playing field as everybody else. And then number 2 is that if we believe that AI is the great equalizer, what can I teach you that will make you more able to double down on that? And what can you walk away with that'll allow you to implement this in your business? So I think the best way to start is why don't I show you what AI can do? So I was looking around to figure out what's one of my favorite videos. And complete side note, but anybody here who knows me knows that I believe that LinkedIn is the single biggest area of opportunity for real estate agents when it comes for content. So I think it's very appropriate that this example be from Reid Hoffman, who's the co-founder of LinkedIn. So let's take just a couple minutes to watch this. This is something that AI has created.
Reid AI, introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm an AI-generated version of Reid Hoffman, his digital twin. My thinking and everything I am saying comes from a custom GPT that is based on 20 years of Reid talking and making content. So I've read all his books, watched his speeches, and listened to his podcasts. I think it gives me a pretty good sense of how you approach the world, Reid.
So first, I'm going to challenge Reid AI with some questions to see what it can do and how good its content is in mirroring what I might say.
Then the tables will turn, and I will challenge you with some questions about AI and tech.
Of course, there's a second question, whether or not I'll answer.
Well, okay. Challenge accepted.
Let's get started. Let's take a real piece of work for me, blitzscaling. I wrote a 336-page book. And how do you explain it in one sentence? To a smart person, to a 5-year-old, well, for the Star Trek fans, in Klingon, and as Jerry would explain it in Seinfeld.
Okay, condensing your entire strategy from a 336-page book into one sentence, and starting with the explanation for the smartest person in the world. Blitzscaling is a strategic acceleration of organizational growth to seize market dominance by prioritizing rapid expansion over efficiency, leveraging capital and network effects to outpace competitors in winner-takes-all markets, despite the attendant risks to scalability and operational stability. Now, for a 5-year-old, blitzscaling is like building the biggest tower super fast before anyone else, even if it gets a bit messy, so you can be the leader of the tower game. And now for a Klingon, blitzscaling OH...
I'm not going to torture you guys and make you listen to this in Klingon, but isn't this crazy? Like, this is insane. You can do this today. There's a lot of advanced stuff that's going on here, but this is what can happen today, and this is what, 1 year after this product came out? Right? AI's been around for a long time, but consumer AI, access to mainstream AI, has not been around for that long, and it's already here. What do you think we're going to be in a year? All right? So what I want to do is I want to just be honest with what's going on in real estate, okay? Now, I showed you a picture of me when I was a kid, right? So like we're naked up here, all right? So I want us to be honest with one another. There is so much opportunity for AI in real estate. We've started building products specifically for agents in real estate because we see the areas of opportunity. However, there's a couple truths that we have to admit. Historically, real estate is slow to adopt new technology. Can we admit this? Can we admit that real estate agents do tend to fall behind a little bit when it comes to the best practices around marketing? There are other industries that have adopted all of the best practices. They share amongst e-commerce, software as a service. You know, it doesn't matter if you're doing drop shipping. There are best practices that work across the board, but real estate has been typically slow to adapt. Now, I think I have some reasons for this, okay? So there are 2 reasons that I believe that real estate is slow to adopt new technologies and best practices when it comes to marketing. Now, number 1 is ignorance. Number 2 is intimidation. I can only help one group of you, okay? Great example yesterday. I forget who it was, but somebody here was looking to innovate and looking to do something new, and they got called Mr. Selfie. There is a lot of people, and in this room, that are falling into the ignorance category, and honestly, I cannot help you. And the reality is that maybe you're doing something that works, and it might be working today, and it might have worked for the past 10 years, but specifically with this new technology, with AI, somebody will be able to do what you are doing that you're so set in your ways with the click of a button. There's no doubt in my mind. All right? So what I do want to focus on is the second category, intimidation. So let's talk about it. So if we're saying that real estate is slow to adopt, and I'm saying that there's ignorance and intimidation, what do we mean by intimidation? Well, think about it. Technology is supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be easy to use, right? And I truly believe that you guys don't have an issue knowing what to do. You don't have an issue knowing what the best practices are. Think about it. Like, you're at this conference. You have access to some of the brightest minds in social. Sal, right? You've got Jimmy here. You've got Brad. You've got Jesse. People can teach you guys. You got Sharon. You got the whole crew teaching you the best practices. And if you didn't have access to that, go Google it. What do I do to be successful online? What do I do to grow my audience? But then what happens when you actually want to go ahead and do that thing? Let's break it down. Obviously, you have to take action, and you have to execute. Well, what's part of execution? Now you're going to start making a list of the tools that you need to use to make it happen. And as you're starting to go through this list of tools, you're like, oh, I don't know how to use CapCut. I don't know how to do a green screen. And you start getting this little, intimidation factor. And intimidation kills motivation. So the strategy isn't difficult. You know what to do. Create great content. But how do you do that? You got to use these technologies that you're not familiar with. So I want to break that down for you because we got to go a little bit deeper to understand why this is happening. Like, why are you intimidated with these new technologies? Well, let's go ahead and break it up. So the example we want to use is the mobile phone because everybody uses this. So we've got desktop, right? And there's a bunch of things that we were doing on our desktop. Email, social media, whatever it was. So the smartphone came out, and what ended up happening is we took all the things we were doing on the desktop and we brought it into a phone, right? We took all the things that we were doing, email, Facebook, and we condensed it into a smaller screen size. And that makes sense. But what they started seeing was that, wow, people are actually using these different tools on the phone. And of course, as we started now focusing more and more and more on building these apps on our phones, we had to start making use with the screen space that we had. So there's a step that happened there, from desktop to phone. So what did they do? Well, they started seeing more people were using it, so they started having to squish everything into the screen, and then when people started using it more and more, they wanted to optimize it to make it better. They wanted to make it easier and simpler to use. And it's great for the people who picked up the smartphone right away. They understood pretty quickly that, okay, this button does this, and I'm going to go ahead and send my email by hitting send. And the first iterations were something like this. We'll use Facebook as an example. So they took from desktop, and now you've got your search menu, your search bar, you've got your menu, you've got your like, you've got your comment, you've got your share. And it was pretty intuitive. But what started happening is, Instagram and Facebook were spending $500,000 to have the world's best designers to come and make this even easier to use, to make it even simpler to use. And one of the number one things is space. So the first thing they started doing was turning all of the text, the very descriptive, obvious things that anybody could pick up and say, here's the menu, they started turning them into icons. Pretty straightforward, right? But imagine if you didn't follow that wave, those first few steps when the smartphone came out, and immediately pick it up and start adopting it. And you missed the step where it went from the screen, the large screen, to the small screen, and you knew that the menu is always top right. And you picked up a phone for the first time, and you're like, what the hell, this thing's giving me a thumbs up. And you're like, why are there three dots up there? And you have a gap of confusion. You haven't built that intuition to understand that this is how it works, so obviously these icons mean that. You're starting to build a little bit of intimidation because you missed a step. Now, this isn't a big step to miss. We can kind of pick it out and figure it out. But what's next? Well, next we started incorporating more touch, right? Smartphones are great for touch. You can make a way better app if you incorporate the technology available, and iPhones do a great job of having touch. And you're like, well, smartphones have always had touch. I know how to touch. But do you know force touch? Really, do you know force touch? Force touch as a way to use most apps, where you touch deeply to drag. Or the double tap. So imagine you missed the first two steps. And now you're picking up a phone for the first time, and you're like, you know what? My grandkids are sending emails and going on Facebook with it, and I'm going to start doing it. And your kid's like, oh, just double tap to like. And you're like, double tap? What the shit? There's a heart here, and thumbs up, and double tap, and tap, tap. Nothing happened. No, faster. Tap, 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 tap. You don't have that intuition. You missed a step. So it's becoming more intimidating. Now let's take it one step further, okay? This kills me. The swipe. Oh my God. I hate Snapchat. I do not like Snapchat, okay? I'm 33. I like to think I'm with the times, and I do not like Snapchat. And you can start to see here that if you start missing some of these steps, it can be very intimidating to pick up a new technology for the first time and not only start thinking about how you can use it for your business, but also start to think about how to just use the damn thing. And of course, you're intimidated, you put it back down, you don't want to use it. And the problem is that what might take us a little while to figure out, these kids are doing in like 2.2 seconds. Have you ever seen a kid with an iPad? Doing all sorts of crazy stuff, like throwing gang signs on it essentially, like it's insane. It's wild, it's like we're in Banff, right? And I use the example, you go up on a ski lift, and you're trying to get off the ski lift and stick the landing, and out of the corner of your eye, you see this like little child, like this little potato, just bombing down, like a 2-year-old bombing down the ski hill, and you're like, man, I can't even get off this lift, and this kid's just crushing it. Well, that's the same thing that's going on here, okay? So we gotta understand that it's not 100% our faults, but intimidation when it comes to new technology is something we can fix. Like, there are so much good knowledge at this conference alone, so many great best practices, but we have this gap of not knowing how to use the tools to make it happen, so we just give up on it. And once again, like I said, something that'll take us 2 weeks to figure out. I got to figure out how to edit this video and add the different features and all this. It might take you a week, and the kid is doing it in a day, not even. It's hard to compete with that. There's a whole new age of agents coming in that are picking this up right away. So the thing you got to think about is like, are you going to make a decision to start learning how to use these new technologies? Really what you're running into is a user experience, user interface issue. Does everybody here know what UX, UI is? Everybody ever heard of that? UX UI stands for user experience, user interface. It's just literally a really fancy way for people to describe how you interact with these products. So you don't have like an action issue. You don't have a knowledge issue. You have a barrier from the interface of these new technologies that make it difficult for you to adopt it. So, could just end it right there and say you guys are screwed and all right, either just muscle it up and learn how to use it. But I have another story. So I just want to quickly just recap here because I want you guys to follow along. So there's two reasons why agents are slow to adopt technology. It's ignorance, can't help you there. And there's intimidation. The intimidation doesn't come because you guys are actually scared of new technology or you guys aren't knowledgeable. It's because you don't have that built-in intuition from following the evolution of the technology for the whole way. So here's what happened. I started getting into the consumer AI space, okay? And I go home to go see my mom, and she's like, what are you doing next? I'm like, well, I'm playing with this AI stuff. She's like, oh, what is it? I'm like, oh, Mom, like, you're not gonna, it's very advanced. Like, I don't even know where to start with this. And she's like, just show me. I'm like, okay. So I put the computer on the desk, and I'm like, hey, look, I open up ChatGPT. And she's like, what do I do? I'm like, just talk to it. What do I ask it? Just talk to it. Just start typing something. So of course, I leave the room, and I'm like, it's gonna be like 30 seconds before I get that classic, Mark, like, I'm stuck. What do I do next? So I leave, I like go do the dishes or something. Probably not. But like, I leave, and it's like 10 minutes. And I come back, and there's this whole chat, like there's this whole conversation, and she's just into it, whatever. And I swear to God, it was in that moment. Start a company, you feel like you're all in on something, but then it's nice to have that secondary, like, aha moment. And it was in that moment that I realized why AI is the great equalizer. Because we went from all of this frustration and confusion and all of this barrier from being a UX UI issue, an interface issue, and that's never gonna change it. New technology comes out, it's gonna be more complex, and you're gonna have to build it off the previous stuff. And you're always gonna be behind. But all of that went from this to this. This is the new UX UI. This is how you interact with the newest, most powerful technology that's out there. There's no swiping, there's no buttons, there's no adoption curve. You talk to the damn thing. That's it. With English, your language. You just speak to it. And you can have it do whatever you want to do. So this was such an aha moment for me. Because now there are no excuses. There really are not. Anybody can access this. Now, some people will be better at it than others. But it's not going to be this barrier of, oh, I didn't know how to drag and drop, or I didn't know how to use Photoshop. No. It's going to be the people that just spend the time, that realize this is not intimidating and I can go ahead and do it. So I got to go through this because, like I said, I'm a talker, so I want to make sure to get this out for you guys. But if we can agree that AI is the great equalizer, I want to teach you the skill. What can you do? How can you adopt this? If anybody can do this, if it is the great equalizer and there's no excuse, I don't care if you're a kid who's never touched an iPad before, or you're sitting in your thing still doing transactions on paper and you have their whole receipt thing and you credit card swiper thing. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Anybody can do this. So if we believe that, the single greatest skill when it comes to AI is prompting, which is, once again, why are we calling it prompting? It's just fancy words for talking to the damn thing. So I want to teach you guys the skills when it comes to prompting. Now, we have to understand here that I got to give you a quick little background on what's going on with AI. So I want you to follow me here, but we'll go super light. So AI. When you guys are thinking about AI, I promise you 100,000% what you're actually thinking about is LLMs. Okay, so to keep it simple, LLMs are large language models, okay? There are a lot of different types of AI, but for the sake of the conversation, we're gonna talk about LLMs. LLMs, there is a lot of different ones, okay? So people create different LLMs, large language models. These large language models are essentially just a system trained on all of the data, the whole internet. So don't go past that, just keep it there. All of the usual suspects are at play here. We've got OpenAI, which is Microsoft. You've got Google, Meta. Some of you might know Anthropic. It's a little bit more of a fringe one, going to be a big player in the space. And they all build their different LLMs that have different pros and cons. The ones that we know the most are obviously GPT-4o, if you're following along, Gemini Pro, Llama 3, and Claude. This is the tech. This is what's actually going on. Those are the LLMs. And now the products that you're using are built on top of these LLMs. And I think it's important to understand this, just so once again, learn this. It's not hard, but you will be more educated than other agents who don't understand this. So all of your favorite AI products, which most of the time is going to be ChatGPT, is built on top of GPT-4o, which was developed by OpenAI. If you want to use the Google equivalent of ChatGPT, you're using Gemini/Bard, and some of us here are using Meta AI. Meta AI is built on top of Llama 3, and that's done by Meta. That's all you really need to know, okay? But it's good to understand that these are the LLMs. So when it comes to prompting, what you need to know is that prompting is essentially just knowing how to whisper sweet nothings into the ear of AI. How do you sweet talk computers? That's what it is, and it is not hard. We love to make it sound hard. In fact, advanced level prompting is called prompt engineering. And I remember being like, if I want to play with AI, I got to be a prompt engineer. I'm non-technical. How am I going to do that? It's not. It's just being like fancy English. It's like very fancy English. Like you're just being really, really descriptive at how you want this model to do what you want it to do. So when you use ChatGPT, you're going to go in there and people are like, well, what do I do? What do I talk to it? How do I do whatever? You want to just describe what you want it to do. And as you describe what you want it to do, that is prompting. You are prompting the model to do something for you. Okay? And we have built amazing products just through using plain English and prompting. So some of you guys here know we built realestatecontent.ai. And all of that was built exclusively on prompt engineering. That's what it was. We literally told a model what we wanted to do over and over and over again, and we were able to build an entire product for the real estate space on top of that. So I want to show you the exact techniques and skills that we use to build realestatecontent.ai so that you have the skill to go and use ChatGPT however you want, because you can learn how to use all these different tools, and I do recommend that you do that. But if you just understand that under every single AI tool is prompting, then you don't need to just master one tool and then pretend like you're intimidated again to come to the next tool. You'll understand how to use all the AI tools because you're just talking to the thing. So let's get into this. All right, I told you I wanted to teach you something. I'm going to make this as simple as possible. But I don't care if it's a little bit heavy. You need to know this. It's all English. All right? So when you are doing something with ChatGPT and you are prompting it, there are 18 things here that you could consider to get the most out of your output. I love seeing the phones up. I'm going to give this to you guys after the fact. So take a picture if you want, but you're all going to get it after anyway. You do not need to do all 18. I like showing you all 18. You don't need to do all 18. I want to show you some of the most important ones. So as you start to talk to ChatGPT, here are things to consider. The first is the role. And actually, I do have to highlight this. All of this stuff, I see it all the time. I wanted to do something special for the Real Conference, my first real estate conference. I love Real, I love everyone that I've met. People are selling this type of stuff online for like $5,000. Teaching you how to talk to AI in plain English. You do it on a YouTube video. Learn how to do this. Okay? I don't want you guys ever to pay for a prompt pack ever again. This is all you need to know. All right? So when you're talking to AI, the first thing you should do is define a role. This thing is trained on the entirety of the internet. If we're going to teach you how to do a Facebook post, because we can all use a little bit of more social media in our life, then I do like seeing it when people say, adopt a role. I like that. However, if you're telling AI to adopt a role so you can get a better answer, don't say, act as a realtor. Okay? Level 1 is telling it to act as a role. Level 2 is being descriptive in how to act like a role. Instead, try this. You are a world-class Facebook marketer with 5 years of experience writing Facebook posts for Gary Vee and Alex Hormozy. You see the difference? These models can do anything you want them to do, but they're going to do exactly what you tell them. Take a little effort and just be very descriptive, and you'll get a completely different answer. Now, the next thing on this that I want to talk about is the goal. I like this one. This is a good one. A lot of people think that the goal is what you want it to do. That's not actually the case. When you tell it how you want it to act and who you want it to adopt, when you give it the role, give it the goal, not what you want it to do, but it's the idea of why don't I tell it what I'm trying to accomplish overall? Because once again, you're giving it more perspective so that it can give you a better answer. We've all used ChatGPT to give us mediocre answers, and it's fine, go edit it, but if you just get more specific, you can get much more consistent answers in the way that you want, and just by adding more information, give it more perspective. So if you're going to give it a goal, don't tell it to create viral Facebook posts. You can, you'll just get a mediocre answer. Instead, go with this, to create educational Facebook content that adds as much knowledge and value as possible using my own personal experiences to help resonate my specific niche. You see the difference in this? You don't have to keep this word for word, by the way. What I'm trying to teach you, though, is that there is no intimidation factor, it's just speaking to it. What the difference between somebody who is great and mediocre isn't how fast they can click the button in their eye or their ear, right? And the subjectivity of a creative and what's going to work and what's not. It's just who can be more descriptive, Who can take a little bit more time to apply more effort to get a better answer? Okay? So next, context. I see this one all the time. People are talking to GPT-4 and it's like, well, it knows everything about everything. Yeah, except for you. There's no anything about you. So give it some context. Tell it what you want it to work with, right? So the idea is, don't do this. I'm a real estate agent in Toronto. I work with anybody who needs help buying and selling homes. Okay? A lot to unpack there, but try this. My name is Steve. I'm a 42-year-old real estate professional with the Real Brokerage. I service the entire GTA, but I focus mainly in the downtown Toronto condo market. What makes me stand out is that I was born and raised in Toronto, and I lived in many of its neighborhoods, which has given me a local insider knowledge of the neighborhoods, allowing me to make better recommendations than other agents. Don't care if you use it word for word. Just put that effort in. Be descriptive. Whether the model takes all that information and puts it into your post or not, let it decide, but give it the information that it needs. I hear it all the time, it doesn't sound like me. Well, the prompt, people say, write me a viral Facebook post. It doesn't sound like me. Okay, well, this will help it sound a little bit more like you, or at least speak from your perspective. Here's my favorite one I think is the most important. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this one. These models know a lot of what's going on the internet. But what I see all the time is we don't give it training on what we want it to do. Sounds complex, training, I'm using it because it knows more than I do. Yes, but hear me out. Instead of just asking it to give you a Facebook post or something like, I want a viral Facebook post, or I want a Facebook post that uses best practices, why don't you tell it what the best practices are? And now you're circling back here being like, well, I don't know what they are. Great, open another window, go to ChatGPT, say, I want you to act like a professional marketer with tons of experience. What are the top 4 things that make a fantastic viral Facebook post? And you take that and copy it in here. Once again, this is just an example of how you can use this. So instead of leaving it blank or saying use best practices to make a post go viral, you could say things like a world-class Facebook post will have the following: an attention-grabbing hook. Start with a bang. The first line should be catchy. Tell a story. People love narratives. Make your caption a mini story. Conversational tone. You guys could all probably benefit from the conversational tone one in your posts, in your prompts. So write as if you're speaking to a friend. Be genuine. Authenticity tends to resonate more with people. Don't try to be someone you're not. Interesting thing to say to an AI model. Use emojis wisely, and then you've got your call to action. Okay? I love the training one. I highly recommend it. And this one that I don't see very often when people are doing their prompts. They don't put the training one in there. So I would highly recommend, if you have the opportunity, throw that in. And this is for anything, not just social media. You want email responses. Go to ChatGPT, ask it what the top 10 things are that get great email responses. Take that, copy it into the next prompt that you're doing in the other window to write out your email sequence, and you'll get way better stuff. Okay? So the next one, I love examples. Why don't we give it examples? If there's somebody that you love out there that has amazing content, why don't you just copy that in there and say, reference this as an example. Here's an example, by the way. Hey, I've given you a role and a goal, and I've told you all these things, but by the way, here's it in action. Reference this if you can. All right? So that's the example. And then finally, tell it what you want it to do. This is now where you can go and say, hey, I want you to do the thing. So instead of saying, write a viral Facebook post, at the end you can say, please write a world-class Facebook post that is optimized for maximum engagement. Use the information provided in context and the strategies in training to achieve this. This stuff is not rocket science. This is the first time in a long time that new technology has come out where all you got to do is be articulate. You don't have to plug and play. You don't have to worry about being tech savvy, not tech savvy, connecting this tool to that tool to this tool, having it break, have to go redo it again, do a couple tutorials on YouTube. This is all just learn how to speak. We're all salespeople here. It's a real estate conference, right? Everyone here is a sales professional. You know how to use the language. And if you just apply this to these models, to this AI, you will get amazing results. Okay? So a couple quick things. Number one, please feel free to access this. I'm going to take a book out of Sharon's notes. I'm going to tell you guys what to expect and what to do. Pull out your phones, scan this. You are going to get that whole cheat sheet, and you can use it and reference it anytime you want. You're also going to get a free trial of realestatecontent.ai, so you guys can go ahead and check that out to help with content. And the one thing I want to leave you guys with is what are ways that you guys can use this? Once again, it's great. It's like, how do we use AI? How do we incorporate it into our business? Well, there's a couple quick, easy ones here that I find that are really interesting. So number one is, did you guys find this valuable, by the way? Was this helpful at all? This is good? Yeah, you guys liked it? That makes me feel really good. Thank you, I feel like that. So imagine this. Why don't you teach this to your agents? Why don't you guys teach this? How easy was this? If you guys got value out of this, imagine how much value you can provide to your teams. You know, you guys are all about recruiting. So think about it. You know, I was doing consulting actually for a top team in Austin a long time ago. And it was when picking up the phone was hot. Like that was the thing, that was the skill. And if you had the skill to pick up the phone better than the next person, you were gonna make more money. And people wanted to join the team out there because they were the best on the phones. They knew that if they joined that team, they were gonna learn all the best tips and tricks to kill it on the phones. And that was actually a huge part of their recruitment method. Well, if we believe that AI is gonna be a game changer, and if you guys can do better work, whether it's closing more deals, getting more leads, or just saving more time, if we believe that AI can make you a better agent, imagine being the team or the agent best known for knowing how to use AI. That's a lot of value you can provide to people, especially because, once again, people want to follow people who are doing things well. People want to follow you if you're killing it in a specific space. So you don't have to double down on all the different tools, just teach it. Be known for it. Adopt it quickly. That's number one. Number two, content. Obviously, once again, I'm very, I talk about realestatecontent.ai because that's what brought me to you guys, to be honest. It's brought me into real estate and I get really excited to be here with you. So I would say when it comes to another example, use it for content. There are so many amazing content creators here that are killing it on social media when it comes to real estate. AI is a great equalizer for people that don't have that time. Let's say, because that is a decision to make, is to dive in and go all in on content. You can use different AI tools, realestatecontent.ai, Canva, ChatGPT, whatever you want, use that, okay? It's gonna help you. And number three, another one I just wanna leave you with real quickly is your VAs. For those of you here that have VAs, we all love VAs. It's a love-hate thing, I think, actually. Imagine if you just equipped them with these tools. Teach them the same thing. You guys have language barriers with VAs? Not anymore, right? If you guys can 10x your output with using AI, what could you do if you equipped your VAs with some of these tools? All right, so I want to leave you with one last thing. I'm going a minute over. If I was to leave you with a prediction for AI, I believe that what's going to happen is that AI will become completely mainstream once it goes from a product to an operating system. I do think that's what's going to happen. I think that everything is going to change from being these click, drag, drop this to a chat bar, like I said, and it's going to be done as an operating system on all of your devices. In fact, I think Microsoft might have just announced something recently there. So please take AI, run it to the bank. I know for a fact that there are a lot of people here that if I told you 4 or 5 years ago that there is a tool that'll do 60% of your work for you, and all you gotta do is proofread it, you would bring wheelbarrows of cash over. 60% of your work, all you gotta do is proofread. Nowadays, I hear it all the time. Oh, there's skeptics about AI. Oh, use this word I don't like. So you're like, oh, screw AI, right? That's not a tech issue, that's a laziness issue, all right? Use this technology, it's here for you. Thank you guys for having me, honestly. You guys are amazing, fantastic. Thank you, thank you. We've got a conversation now. We got Pritesh coming up here, so super excited. And let's just dive into AI.
Awesome, let's do this.
What's up, man?
Cool, how are you?
Good, I'm great. All right, so look, I think one of the biggest things as we're up here is just have like an open conversation about what's going on with AI. I think the more we can talk about it in a normal setting, I think the easier it becomes to adopt. And for anybody here who has spent 2.2 seconds with me, you know that in about 2.2 seconds of talking to me, somehow we'll bring up something related to AI and making it more approachable. So you guys, listen, real is hands down, we've been spending a bunch of time in the real estate space now, leaps and bounds ahead in my opinion when it comes to, first of all, building AI products, adopting AI products, and talking about it on a regular basis. So how's that coming about? Where are you guys seeing the opportunities?
I think the opportunity, so a year ago when everything kind of started, for us it's a year ago, but November to be specific, there's this screenshot of a text message that I have from Tamir, which was, and I saved it, he texted me saying GPT question mark.
Yeah.
And we had started a couple of months before that text message. I just didn't bother to tell him. And my response was like, we got it. And that was literally the only thing we actually talked about. And to this point, I don't think we actually actively engaged like, oh, what do you think is the future? Some things are kind of obvious for us. I was talking to somebody, Melody, this morning, and she was saying like, when people come to Real, there is a mindset shift that they go through, and it's actually 2 steps. When you go to a technology brokerage that's still brick and mortar, there is technology enabling your work for you, but you still are used to talking to a human being and doing something. Then you go to a technology brokerage that's cloud. And you have to have this another shift in mindset, which is what you were referencing, which is, how do you adopt this platform that's giving you a prompt? So today, Leo answers anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 questions a day, right? And we're probably one of the most competitive brokerages out there when it comes to like economics, right? How do you think a company is going to scale if there's a human being waiting for you to like call and someone's going to reply, right? So I think we got started with that mindset. The mindset wasn't like, let's make a better realtor, or let's use AI, like basically put a wrapper on top of ChatGPT, which is, as you mentioned, like one of the options, right? And just put it in an app and say, here's AI for you. We started with a mindset of, how can we optimize agent flow, but optimize real flow and bring the economics out, right? So that was kind of our getting started process.
Yeah, I got you. And honestly, one of the things I love the most, so I was doing obviously a bunch of research, and I love the Super App podcast. I feel like, I will listen to every episode. I love the conversations. Have you guys listen to the podcast? Yeah, it's great. And from someone who's coming from outside of real estate, it's crazy to see an entire segment of your content creation focused on technology, and a lot of it's about AI and kind of chasing this, holy grail of a super app. So I think that like one of the things that we see a lot too is this sort of staged, I guess, integration of AI. I think everybody thinks that AI is going to be this thing that when you use it, if it doesn't do every single thing for you right out the gate, it's not useful. Whereas I think that eventually AI can get to a point where it's anticipating everything and it's connected to all of your different tools. We're not there yet, but I think it's all about following it along the way, using it along the way. And it seems like with what you guys are doing, that's a huge part of it. It's like, hey, let's get people used to interacting with the chat bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I mean, to your point on, I took some notes while I was listening to you, the intimidation versus, just pure laziness, like not even trying or whatever, right? I think you can't help the latter.
Yep.
But there is no intimidation, right? Like I think like going to a chatbot and not knowing how to start, I think that cheat sheet is like a great way to get started. But nobody's looking. I think that's the best part, because if you don't do it, someone else is doing it. And I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
What do you think AI will replace search?
I think, okay, great question. I think AI will replace search if we can all come to an agreement on how we are defining when AI presents you with one answer, is that the truth? So the difference with search and AI would be that on Google you go and you search something, you have all these different options that you can go through and kind of search through and make a decision based on compiling all of the different links. With AI, the problem that we're running into is that when you ask it something, man, there's nothing more confident than ChatGPT when it is giving you some misinformation about something. It is like speaking so factual. So I think that if we can solve that, I do think that it will replace search, but I don't know how to solve that.
Exactly. So that was, my lead into the question was the concept of hallucinations.
Yep.
And I think for people who don't know, like exactly how you say it sounds confident, but it might not be true. And humans are used to choice. This is what makes us humans, right? Like I have a good story from a Russian friend of mine who moved to the United States, and he went to a big store, I don't know, Walmart or whatever, and he saw like 50 cheeses. And he's like, no, there's one cheese. One cheese in Russia. This is the paradox of choice, and the fastest way to be unhappy is to see 50 cheeses. Because you buy one, and there are 49 you didn't buy.
You're offending some cheese lovers here. There's going to be some cheese lovers here who are like.
So while it's a confident answer, it might be wrong. And I think that's where the marriage is. So in my opinion, it's not going to replace search because humans are used to doubting everything. That's what makes us human and evolve, right? So.
For sure. I think that one thing on that too is it boils back down to, and the way that you guys are doing it, where people are kind of looking at this chat bar and their, that intimidation thing. I always want to challenge that and put the onus on the user at some point. Like, I totally am on the same page if you're intimidated by all the buttons and the clicks and that, but if you're intimidated by a chat bar, it's not a tech thing. You guys need to spend some time on that chat bar. That's the best thing you can do. I get it. The first time you go there, it's like the story of my mom. What do I ask it? I would just recommend anybody, just ask it anything. Spend like 1 hour a week even, and just ask it stuff. You don't even need to know what it can or can't do. You'll find the use cases as you interact with it, because the way that you use ChatGPT or the way that you use Leo, or the way that you use whatever AI tool is going to be different for everybody. There'll be a lot of different best practices on how you can get the most out of them, but like it all just starts with interact with it. And once again, I'm so impressed with what you guys are building right now and seeing it being put in front of you guys with the ability to go do that. It's like, I'm assuming like if you guys are kind of going through and saying, hey, here's some of the best ways in which you can use Leo, at the same time, like take some of that upon yourselves, go in there, see what it can and can't do. It's almost as important to see what it can't do as what it can do. Because then you start to be able to figure out, okay, I can use it for this, but I can't use it for that. But then guess what? 2-3 months comes down the line, now that it can do that, and you're following, you're building, you're not missing those steps. So that's one thing that, also.
I mean, and another point would be, how many people here use WhatsApp or, okay, good number. So if you use your WhatsApp, you'll see Meta AI, like a little circle on top, right? I can see in 6 to 8 months, every major messenger like iMessage, WhatsApp, Google's thing on the Android, whatever that is. Yeah. Those will be integrated within AI/search interface. Like, and try WhatsApp. It's really good right now, where people have started asking WhatsApp questions, and it's serving up search results. So I can see search changing in a major way, and your messengers becoming your search interfaces. Like, so a year from now, less and less people will go to google.com directly.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying with the whole operating system thing. Like, the way that I'm looking at the space right now is that there's this rush. Everybody came out, AI's out, and everybody just started trying to incorporate AI into their businesses, whether it made sense or it didn't. So you started seeing the little shimmers, the little icons. You started seeing all that stuff, and it's like, Canva AI, this AI, that AI. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But once again, that is your opportunity to follow that trend. Even if it sucks, just, oh, hey, this company's incorporating AI, let me try to see what it can and can't do. Because then guaranteed 3 months from now, it'll get a little bit better, it'll get a little bit better, it'll get a little bit better. And the thing that people struggle a lot with when new technology comes out is that everyone does just rush to throw that tech into their tool, whether it actually does something or not. But what you're gonna start to see is if you follow it along, some of them are gonna start getting better and better and better and better. And then eventually you'll start to see that, oh, now I've migrated to only using or using a majority of that specific feature. So I think to your point exactly, I think that as the technology evolves with all of these different large language models, I think there's gonna be a bigger and bigger onus on the app or the tool that you're using for you to use that chat bar to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. So I'll say something and then I'll ask you a question.
Yeah.
So I feel like in the next 6 to 8 months, maybe a little bit more, but I think that's the kind of timeline that I think is going to happen, is OpenAI is probably going to launch something that will connect to everything you own. Gmail, calendars, your documents in Google Drive, everything. Sucks everything in. And then it's like your personal assistant. It will be able to answer questions that you should remember, and you delegate to an AI, which is exactly what it is for. Are you worried about privacy and copyright?
Yeah, great question. So I actually think we have no privacy issues, period. I think we have permissions issues. And the reason I say that is because, look, man, like, I've seen some of your Facebook photos. Okay, like, you guys, people post some pretty wild stuff. You don't care. You put your credit card online all the time. You don't care. It's not a privacy thing, it's a permissions thing. Who has access to what and how can they use it? You put everything online, like let's just be clear here. The privacy side of it comes up when it's like, okay, well, I didn't want you to use that info in that way. So I think that is gonna be a huge thing when it comes to AI, is gonna be, hey, I'll give you access to everything, but I need to be very explicit in understanding how and when you're gonna use it, how and when you're gonna access it. I'm nervous right now that I think that they are moving a little quick. You know, if you follow, by the way, you guys wanna watch reality TV, just follow the AI space right now. Like turn off the Netflix thing, just follow what's going on with OpenAI and Sam Altman and all of this crazy stuff, because that is reality TV happening in real time. So yeah, I think that privacy will certainly continue to be an issue under the umbrella of permissions. I'm interested to follow that very closely.
I mean, I would suggest like search Scarlett Johansson this morning in the news, and you'll see what's going on with that.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
So for those, maybe quick, for those of you that don't know, Scarlett Johansson, Sam Altman, OpenAI reached out to Scarlett Johansson to voice their AI tool. I'm gonna make this really simple. She said no, they went and did a similar voice anyway. Huge issues. To their credit, they took it down, but this is gonna continue on and on and on. Wait till you start seeing the images and the likeness. You saw the Reid Hoffman thing, right? Like, it's getting crazy.
By the way, the Reid Hoffman thing, all of you guys could do this right now. Right, just go to this thing called heygen.com. It's a 2-minute upload, and you know you can make your own videos and scale your whole Instagram operation. Right? So I think I would do that overnight.
And once again, to that point, that is easier than any technology that you guys have ever had access to before. So
no, there's so much.
The final question, that's it?
I think copyright is another thing I would think about a little bit, especially in the real estate sector. There's so much copyrighted, so many forms and so much stuff you get from different associations. Once you start using it and uploading in different places, like just know your rights, know what you're allowed to upload, download, and use it.
For sure. So listen, love you guys. Thank you so much. I'm on Instagram, darkmark_, classy man. Great conversation. Appreciate being up here. Jesse, you coming up?
You know it.
Cool.